Today I just want to talk to you about infidelity. Several years ago, maybe 3 years ago, my best friend called me. We've been friends for more than 20 years. She called me on the phone and it was like, I don't know, I want to say it was like a Tuesday. It was in the afternoon, maybe 4 o'clock. The details were important. She called and when I saw her name come up on my caller ID, I was so excited because even though we hadn't talked as much, um, I was glad to see her that she had called, and I was excited to just catch up. And so when we first met, sometime after, I think shortly after we met, she had told me that if she ever saw my husband with somebody else, she would tell me. And so on that day, she called me and told me that she saw my husband with someone else. And I think we immediately go into denial because the first thing I said was, it was with his secretary, and the more details she gave me, I realized that it wasn't his secretary, that it was someone else. It turned out to be his ex. But the effect of infidelity on the other spouse is just catastrophic. I think we live in denial. We see the red flags, because I did. I saw signs. I knew my husband was cheating. I would tell him that he sounded like a cheater, and I didn't have enough self-worth in myself to trust what I knew. I didn't have enough self-worth in myself to trust that what I knew was the truth. And also, I think that God tried to prepare me. I mean, well, he did prepare me. I just didn't listen. I didn't take the warnings. I didn't heed the warnings. I had him on this pedestal like he was a god. I had mistaken unconditional love for something that it wasn't, because I believe that if you have unconditional love for somebody, you're not going to hurt them. You're not going to cheat on them. You're not going to be unfaithful. But as it turns out, there have been multiple women, and it was all my fault. As far as I knew something was off. I knew that he was cheating. In the back of my mind, I knew it, and I did not do anything about it. I could have prepared myself better. I've made a lot of money my whole life. Okay. So there's no reason why I could not have been in a better position, but I had to, I stayed. I'm not going to say I had to, but I stayed because I had been a poor manager of my money. I stayed because I thought that he was more than he was, like a God, like big G God, and he wasn't. But in a lot of ways, I had put him on a pedestal that he had no business being on. And it's been a work in progress. It's really, I went to therapy. I believe that therapy is very helpful to those who are interested in getting help and healing. There's other ways to heal, right? Because God can heal us. We don't have to go to therapy. I get that. We can go to our pastor. We can go to counselor therapy. I get all that. So we can, whatever it is that you can do or you need to do, there's support groups, which I absolutely love, that can help you get through the process. Because it's a process like grieving the old relationship, grieving things how they were. But I believe it's important as a woman to believe in yourself. I believe it's important to trust yourself. I believe it's important to listen to the voice that God has given us, the intuition. I believe that we don't pay attention because we want somebody to be better than they are. We don't pay attention because we expect something from somebody that they never could be. And it has been a journey of forgiveness for me, and it changed me as far as I believe in forgiving somebody. I don't necessarily know if reconciliation is appropriate in every relationship, so I'm not saying that. I believe we can forgive and not reconcile. So there were a lot of things that God sent my way to help me, and one of those is Lisa Turkis. She wrote all these books about healing and boundaries and forgiveness, and they have been a tremendous help to me. Joyce Myers, the books that she wrote, I became obsessed with just healing for myself, just trying to get better for myself. I was teaching full time at the time at a college. I had little kids. I still have little kids, and I needed to be better for them. But as I've been on this journey, I needed to be better for myself so that I could walk with confidence, the confidence in me that he was going to take care of me, that I'm good enough, that I'm amazing, that he made me to be this amazing woman. And I didn't have anything to do with my husband cheating. Yes, I have something to do with the relationship not being what it should be, but as far as him going out and cheating, because I could have did the same thing, right? But that's not what I did. But it it gave me this level of forgiveness that I didn't even know that I could do, because it was such a tragedy for me. It was something I didn't expect. And so I believe that, when we engage in infidelity, when we cheat, we are being selfish. We're being selfish, and we don't realize that when you cheat on your spouse, you don't just affect yourself and your children, but you affect people that are around you, people who expected better of you. Now here we are. People thought that we had this perfect relationship. Of course, I knew that, but I knew we didn't. But people think you have this perfect relationship, but you never know what's going on in somebody's home. You just see what people want you to see. That we, as women, we have perfected this "I'm fine" mask. But in a lot of cases, we are not fine. We just go and be who people want us to be. We put on this smile, we put on this face, we put on this fake, and then we go out into the world. And then we come back home broken, trying to figure out how to pick up the pieces and move forward. But thank God that He loves me, that, He's there for me. God is always there for me. I can see how He just took care of me. Like, I found out the truth on a Sunday, and then Monday I had to teach. And God took care of me. It was like He was carrying me in the palm of his hands. And even though it was a hard time for me, had these angry outbursts when my counselor asked me. He said, "How do you feel?" And I said, "All I feel is rage." And I don't know if that's the word, but I was so angry, because I believe that if you're going to cheat, I believe that if you want to be with somebody else in a relationship and you're married, I believe the best thing to do is to leave the relationship, because obviously there's something that is missing in the relationship that makes you want to seek somebody else out. And so I believe you got to be honest, right, with your spouse and say, okay, I need this and I need you to do this. And so if this person doesn't do this, then that person comes back and says, okay, well, this is what I needed. You didn't do it. So I want to pursue other people. I want to be with somebody else. And so then they can split, they can separate, they can divorce and go on about their business. Because what I've found is that a person who cheats typically is never going to be satisfied. They're going to always want something different. They're going to always want more. They're going to always want better. They're going to always want something else. And so I saw this movie Tyler Perry did, Why Did I Get Married? And one of the men, he left his wife for a woman who was smaller in stature. She was thin. She was they both looked beautiful women. And that man left his wife because she was heavier to be with this thinner woman. And she talked about at the end of the movie the 80-20 rule. And what happens is we leave a person, our spouse, who is 80, giving us 80% of what we need or what we want. And nobody can give us 100%, right? Because we're not perfect. None of us are perfect. And so sometimes we have unrealistic expectations in a relationship as well. But anyway, the 80-20 rule is your spouse gives you 80% of what you need, and 20% that you don't. They don't give you 20% of what you need. And we go out and we seek 20% from somebody else instead of just thinking about you. Just like you get 80% of a relationship, they get 80% of a relationship as well. But 20% of what they need, they don't get. And so you're not the only one that's not happy in a relationship. It's two people that's not happy as far as the 20% is concerned. But when you go and cheat with somebody for 20%, you cheat everybody. You cheat everybody loses. And so what I love to say is that when somebody gets a divorce, everybody loses. But when you cheat on your spouse, everybody loses as well, because all of this has at some point come out. A lot of people hurt. A lot of people have to experience the wrath of what you've done, the embarrassment, the shame, the guilt, even if they had nothing to do with it. So we got to be thinking about infidelity. If we want to be with somebody else, if we want something different, we want something more, something better, we need to leave. We need to leave the relationship and let that person go instead of being selfish, wanting your cake and eating it too. It's wrong. It's like, how is it that you feel like it's okay to cheat and then come back and everything's supposed to be fine? It's not. It's just not. It's wrong. So anyway, it's important that if you're in a relationship that you believe in yourself, that you trust yourself, that you listen, that you are journaling, that you're getting help if you need it. If you have low self-worth, that you're working on your confidence, because you want to bring the best to a relationship, and you want to be the best in a relationship. And relationships are hard. I'm not saying that they're easy. Relationships are hard. And we have to constantly be growing and getting better in a relationship. And I think probably next to trust and being faithful, I think communication is key. And a lot of times people don't say what it is that they need. They don't say what they want. They just don't get it, and then they go out somewhere else to get it. But it's important to talk, to communicate, to say whatever it is that you feel, instead of expecting the other person to read your mind. It's never gonna happen. They're just not gonna be able to read your mind. We weren't built like that. We can't read it. Now sometimes we know something's off, right? But we're not gonna be able to read somebody's mind. We're not gonna know what they need or what they want unless they tell us. So we gotta be honest. And so that is the next thing, is we gotta be honest. We need to be honest in our relationships. We need to say what needs to be said. We need to say what we want. We need to say what we need. And then let that be that. And I'm talking about saying it with love, right? I'm not saying being harsh or brash. I'm not saying that. I'm saying just speaking the truth in love. So that's kind of my story. That's what I've learned. And I hope that this will help you to, if you're going through this, to get better, to move forward. Or if you're doubting something that is happening, just pay attention. Pay attention. The red flags are there. If they, just pay attention. Sometimes we talk ourselves out of the truth. Sometimes we don't. We lie to ourselves because it's easier than telling the truth. So I hope that you won't do that for yourself today.